to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It would mean something. It would mean something.
And they got away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. Tonight's special guest, Mr. William Goldsmith. Fantastic drummer. Sunday Real Estate. Maybe you heard of them. Fire Theft, Assertion, some band with another guy that maybe you heard of too. I'm really excited to talk to this guy. Interesting drummer, interesting fella, and we're just gonna get right down to it, boppers. Here he is, sir. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining me, man. I was rocking the Assertion record earlier this week. That's real recent. That's like earlier this. I mean, every month seems like a year now in COVID times, of course. But that's pretty. When did you guys record that? Was that during the COVIDs?
Yeah. So yeah, we couldn't play. We couldn't play shows or anything. So we just kept recording. We just started recording, kept recording, and then just kept going. And then we finished the record, and then the lockdowns were still pretty much going. So then we just started the second record, and we're about, I'd say, 90% done now with that record. So
that's awesome. So
yeah.
Were you in a situation where you were able to practice together? Or how are you doing, like remote writing? Like what's?
No, we were just Justin would come over here, and we basically would go to town here. Yeah. So but we also have been doing things remotely as well through Zoom, where he shares his screen. He brings up Logic, and then I can hear the audio, and he and I are going through stuff on there. So
technology is something else, huh?
Yeah, I know. I was really surprised when we could do that. I was like, oh man, we should have been doing this. This is great, because usually we'd wait until we finally would get together. He would come out here every 2 weeks for like 3 days. And we would just work, and we would just work. And then when he told me about that, I was like, oh, well, let's do that. That way we don't have to wait to work on stuff. I mean, he works on stuff by himself. I mean, I have to give him the credit. Like, he's done all of the most heavy lifting as far as like engineering and production is concerned. I helped a bit, but he's really, deserves the credit.
So how long have you guys been playing now? My understanding is that it was sort of like you guys kind of operated in secret for a little bit, as a lot of bands do. Well, you kind of got it together, right? It wasn't like a state secret or anything, but I mean, you gestated for a while before coming fully forth from the head of Zeus.
I don't know.
Words and my analogy. Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, that's all right. We didn't really, that wasn't really an intentional thing. Really, it was just, I think I pretty much, I mean, I stopped playing for 9 years. So,
right. Yeah.
So the first part of us being a band was actually just Justin and I, getting together and him helping me shake off the cobwebs, So,
Well, and that's you. I mean, it's not like you're pretty busy. I mean, that's you had some kids, right? That takes
still
a little
do.
time. Yeah, still do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But was that a planned? Just like, hey, I'm gonna take a back. Let's have this take a back seat for now, and then come back to it, or was it just sort of like life kind of happening, and then you just sort of felt the fire again? Like, what was the? And the reason why I'm fascinated by folks that take a break or stop. Right.
Yeah. It was it was more of a kind of a walking away from it kind of thing.
Right.
It was like I just you become a bit disenchanted by aspects of, like, just say the music industry onto its itself. Is definitely not the most pleasant terrain to navigate, and so there's that amongst some other things. And I mean, I don't want to get too heavy, but a whole like ridiculously long list of people close to me died. And I kind of shut down. That's when I stopped doing martial arts at that point. And then I stopped playing, and I basically just kind of I don't know. I think I had like a bit of what I could only imagine as a bit of a PTSD thing going on.
Yeah.
And so there was that. And but it was to the point where I didn't even want to listen to music anymore, because when I would hear music, I mean, less, but it would I would feel this like sinking feeling,
Yeah. Like,
so,
yeah,
I know.
Horrible.
So,
and I know that, I get all kinds of emails when I insert myself into the show, but like Scotty from Carp and the Whip was a good friend of mine too. Like, and
he's one of the people on the list.
Yeah. And I know, and that's it's heavy. It's been it's been a heavy year on my side also, and that affects you. And people that say that it doesn't are lying, or they don't understand that how it is affecting them. But it'll poison you too, and that's the worst thing about it. So okay, so anyway, you've took a step back, kind of found, and so talk to me about like finding it again, because and the reason why I bring it up is because you're such an interesting, iconic drummer. Like, you're someone that has your own unique style, and
I suppose, I don't know,
that can be that can be a blessing, that can be a curse, and then also you're someone that's, when you've done a lot of different things, that can also be a blessing and a curse, right? It's almost would be easier if you were just a guy starting off that didn't have any kind of quote unquote name for himself at all, to a certain degree. So you have to worry about measuring up to the past.
Sure.
But then by the same token, you do, so like how good it can be. And like, do you have those expectations kind of fighting you in your head when you're starting up, or are you just trying to get back to like just playing music?
Yeah, it was more just trying to rediscover, just to find the inspiration again. But what really kind of hit me was when I met. I didn't meet Justin in person. I met, a lot of Facebook.
Where we all live on the internet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he he had reached out, and he had said, that he, was inspired by some stuff that Sunny Day had done. And I was like, that's awesome. Thank you and stuff. And then I started looking into what he was doing, and he was teaching music to children and also teaching music to children with autism. And
oh wow, cool.
And my son Logan has autism, so that that really got my interest. So that's when I kind of like sat up and started like really like looking closer, and kind of like with this sort of like desire to learn from him, which I'm still trying to do, like, because and so he teaches music to, I mean, not just children that have autism, but there's several that do, and or did. And he also has a son who has autism. So, and I've been kind of making this up as I go and doing the best I can. And so I just was, and so like anybody's homework is that they're willing to let me copy off of, I was interested in doing that, so there was that. And then I discovered his band Pig Snout that he has with his kids. And it completely like threw me into shock, because it hit me that I was not only not sharing that part of myself with my kids, but I was literally like hiding it from them. I mean, I wasn't stopping them from listening to music, but I mean, they didn't even know that I played music at all. So
crazy.
So
yeah.
So, I mean, my oldest daughter did, but the little ones, I mean, they're 4 and 6, and I mean, granted, they were even younger before that. So, but I mean, so that's when it hit me. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to, because it's the only thing that's even remotely sort of comparable to magic that I can give to them.
Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And
so, yeah.
And it's
so, yeah.
I can see where it wouldn't be like part of your daily life, but it's obviously a huge part of your life, even if you're not actively doing it. And then to have and I feel like you're not the first person to say that to have like, oh yeah, the kids didn't even know, right? And it was like, like there's something like it's like soul heavy about that, of like it, not like, oh, they didn't know what a badass my dad was, but just sharing the gift of like creation and like whatever, when the magic happens and like something very special that takes us beyond the vagaries of the mundane existence day after day. Like,
yeah.
Wow. That's heavy.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it really kind of like sort of like shook me out of my, sort of like out of my I don't know, my, what do you want to say? My state of or what would be the best word? Sort of resignation, whatever, to the whole thing, and sort of made me realize that, that it was like a crime for me to not share that with them. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard described, it's like, if you have something, it's a gift, and others maybe don't have it, like, they'll get angry at you for for not doing it. Like, I'm angry at you for not. I've been angry at people that I know that are incredible players for not doing it, and it's just like, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to everyone else, and most importantly, you owe it to me. You need to play.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about me, but hey, you guys stop playing, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting about this time around is it's different this time, like compared to playing before. Like now it's like I'm playing constantly, whereas before I was very much so guilty of only ever playing drums when my band was playing. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
That was the only time. I never practiced. I never ever, but I mean, I was self-taught. I wasn't like a drum corps guy. I didn't have like a set of rudiments that I just did it, Yeah. So, and I think in some ways it's like, well, that's kind of cool that, somebody who's completely flying blind was able to do this, that, and the other thing. But then another way, it's like, I have some regrets as far as that is concerned, but I was a serious ADHD kid. But kid then. So I didn't do well with the lessons thing. I didn't have the attention span for it. So
did you have an idea when you started in with it, that was a thing that you wanted to pursue seriously, or were you just having a laugh, really?
Since I was 5, I knew that I wanted to play drums. I wanted to play music. And I knew that playing in a band was, a way to do that, and I liked the idea of being in a band where everybody in the band was like an integral part of the, of the process, or the outcome, the end result.
Yeah. I mean, I was, as I tend to do, even with bands I listen to all the time, I tend to listen to all the music with sort of like a different ear, knowing that I'm going to have them on. I was listening back to the Sunny Day Real Estate albums, and it really just does strike me like how unique as a player everybody is, like really unique. and made
Self-taught.
a unique thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Self-taught usually ends up breeding unique, but I guess sometimes. But.
Sure. But I mean, like, even like just not, like, bizarre would be the wrong word, but just kind of not sounding quite like anything else. And that's the first thing, because the first one I ever heard was Diary, and like I was just like, wow, where's this coming from? Like, but it was kind of like it didn't seem like a band that came from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it didn't sound.
Yeah.
Some bands you're like, oh, they're from Boston, or like, oh, they're from New York, or whatever. We get it. And like, band, like, I don't know, you could say they came from Neptune, and I believe you. Like, it's like, this is wild sounding. What's this all about?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like a hodgepodge of, like, you know, these different people and all their different influences, kind of, and they're sort of like not so much like, I don't think that any of us have had influences to where we did like just pure, like, just carbon copy, whatever, imitations of our influences, but we're, you know, sort of like it influenced our approach to a certain degree. But I mean, like, so Jeremy was super into U2 when he was a kid.
Right. I remember that.
Super into U2, yeah, like way into U2, like, and which, I mean, I you know, which I understand. I like U2.
Now,
and,
are you talking about Joshua Tree, or are you talking about like what was Zoo TV or whatever? What was going on?
Yeah, so Jeremy was all about. Jeremy was like all about you know, Boy, Unforgettable Fire, and Joshua Tree, and then, you know, I think Joshua Tree had just come out when Jeremy and I met, actually.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
makes
sense.
Yeah. So, but you know, but I mean, we were also influenced by No Means No, Fugazi, you know, the Melvins, Nirvana. I mean, it's Shudder to Think, Lungfish, Rites of Spring, Slint. I mean, My Bloody Valentine. You know, I could just go, just like blah, 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 keep going. Jawbox. I mean, I could sit here forever and just keep on thinking of influences. But so what was interesting for us is that so Shudder to Think actually specifically sort of like kind of made us go, oh,
yeah,
like,
you can make,
and they're on Discord.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And we're like, wow,
freaky angular music, and it
can be a punk rock band and have this like singing that almost had an overt vulnerability to it.
Yeah,
you know, and still be heavy. So that was kind of like this sort of a light bulb went off over all of our heads, Jeremy's included. You know, I think a lot of that sort of like inspired Jeremy eventually joining Sunny Day, like after, because we were 3-piece for a long time, and then you know, we couldn't find a singer, so we just sort of like gave in, and we're like, okay, well, we'll just do what we always do. And Dan screamed for a while, and then he tried to sing, and he valiant effort. You know, I would not have been able to do what he did. And then as far as like lyrics go, Dan is just purely a genius. So, but when Jeremy joined, that's when it was like, you know, wow, so we could take what we're doing and then add, you know, granted, he didn't add stuff to things that we had already written. We ditched everything that we'd written before and started over.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting to hear you invoke the names of all those bands, because I mean, I could totally hear it, because if you listen to like, it's almost like Jeremy's like doing one thing and going this way, and then you guys have this kind of almost like you know, in some cases like King Crimson like or something, right? And I mean, there's a compliment, not the indulgent stuff of just like
or early Tree People, people. When Doug Mars, that was another big influence, you know, like Tree People when Doug from Built to Spill was in the band, you know, and they had the kind of like sort of the guitar sort of interplay, you know, kind of stuff that was a little bit chaotic but melodic at the same time.
Yeah, it all like interlocks together, and then you have this incredible melodic force, you know, like with this ostensibly, in some cases, very aggressive music, but like tied together with this really unique. Like I would put it to the same. I put Jeremy's vocals, especially in Sunny Day, to the same one as like oh god, I can't get freaking guys. Pink Moon, like Nick Drake or something, right? Like that level of like,
Oh yeah,
like just like
yeah.
this could totally be sensitive songwriter stuff, but
Mhm.
this is coming in hard and it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he and Jeremy was, I mean, as shit, man, not just Jeremy, I was too. We were kids, I mean, we're 2 years apart. And God, so he was 14 and I was 16 when we met. And then when he joined Sunny Day, I'm pretty sure he was 17, just about to be 18.
Right.
So, and then I was like going on 20, whatever, I think. So, but yeah, we were kids. I keep saying he, but we were kids.
Turns out you were a kid too.
Yeah.
So then,
Yeah.
so walk me through that first record. So walk me through Diaries. That's like what, 93, right? That's 93, 94, somewhere in that neighborhood, right?
Man, so I have a difficult time with time, but yeah, I mean I'd say that we wrote it in 93 and recorded it in 93 and it was becoming 94. Yeah, right. Pretty sure, yeah.
And a friend of the show, Brad Wood, recorded that one, so that's that's a good dude. I think his name got invoked in the Tar episode too, so I'm just it's Brad Wood Thursday apparently. So, but that's got such an interesting energy as a record. Like it's got, it just kind of seems like everyone's just brimming over with like excitement for their own thing, and it's a very interesting sounding record too. Like it doesn't sound like a quote unquote 90s record necessarily. Like it's just, but it is got an interesting and unique sound, which is kind of hard to pull off, especially around for an era where everything wanted like more of the same. Right, like it's like you had like the first round of like the bands that the major labels were like, oh, we can make money on this. Oh, okay, cool. And then suddenly everyone's trying to make things that sounded like other things. Was that a good recording process for you? That recording that record?
Yeah, well, so I mean, I can't speak for everyone else, but I'm pretty sure that everyone else. I'm sure Jeremy can identify with this. I was just fucking terrified the whole time. I was so nervous doing each take, because that was our first time, not our first time recording, but our first time recording for something that was going into the historical record. Really,
yeah, exactly. You're testifying before Congress, right? To going into the official.
Kind of. Well, we're putting out a record on Sub Pop, and especially, I mean, that was, it's like we didn't see that. We didn't see that coming. We were still kind of caught by surprise and in shock from the whole thing when we were trying to make that record. So we went on tour. I don't know, maybe it was like a couple months. We basically toured and then went to record the record. And I can't listen to those older records because I just can't. There was just so many decisions I made that were very naive, which I guess is what some people liked about it, I suppose. But I'm just like, oh man,
if you had to do it again today, you wouldn't have made that same decision necessarily, right?
Well, yeah, correct. Yeah. So, like hitting the bell on the break in circles, like, it's like stuff like that. It's like, dude,
I love that part. That part's great.
I know. And I get a lot of crap for like talking shit about that. But I mean, but my sense of pocket, and it was just, I was very, I can hear how nervous I am. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, and I'm like, man, stupid kid, you should record to a click, and stuff like that, but it is what it is, and, but I mean, it's fine. I'm a big sort of, a fan of, honest documentation of, a time and place and that those human beings' lives. So that's what each one of those records was.
So when you're putting together a song like In Circles, right? Like, do you know like that you're onto something kind of special? Like, do you have this feeling like, oh wow, this is cool, or is it just another song?
So we would have these moments of like, can I swear?
Oh, yeah, you can. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I think I heard you swear earlier. We would have these holy shit moments of like, you know, wow, I can't believe we just created that. I can't, you know, we can't believe that we just made that up. But it wasn't like the world is going to be, you know, it was more like for us. It was more like, you know, for our own personal journey together as friends, or like, you know, our like process of learning how to sculpt air, basically like it was a breakthrough, you know, for us on a personal level. So we never were like, never once did we ever think, you know, oh, this is gonna, we didn't ever think anybody was ever gonna hear it. Like, you know, it wasn't on the table, you know what I mean? Like, we were from the punk rock world. We couldn't even get a show at the local clubs in Seattle because the Seattle thing was kind of booming, and we were not a part of that. We came from the world of playing in a cement box in the Central District, you know, and you know, hardcore shows that, you know, were just a whole different thing. So yeah, so we didn't think anybody was gonna hear it. So no, you know, but even if we thought somebody was gonna hear it, no, we never thought, oh, this is really gonna be something, whatever. You know, no.
Well, yeah, and the only reason I bring it up is because it's like, to a certain degree, it's like that's a song that it seems like has weight, emotional weight to it, to like younger generations that are experiencing it for the first time, right? And I mean, ideally, all music is going to be like that, right? But some things just hit a little harder, and that's one that's like, as an intro song goes, it's like, oh yeah, so, you know, if you like this, like, you can go here from there, you can go here from there, and like, you know,
yeah,
like this band.
And that song in particular, that song I specifically remember, that's a song that Jeremy had. So Jeremy had all these songs that he recorded in his, like, it was this little secret, right? And he had a little 4-track, whatever.
Right.
So, and then it was like this secret thing, you know? So that was one of his little like secret things. And so he played that for us. And so that's, you know, that was when I was like, well, so it's really beautiful and melodic. It doesn't mean we can't
rock it out.
Can't come down hard on it and sort of push that beautiful sound really hard, you know? So, and that was kind of a big breakthrough moment. That song was all Jeremy, and then we basically just adapted it to being played loud, you know?
But it's given weight, because, like, you know, because when it does hit, it like hits like an arena rock song or something, but not like an arena rock band, but it hits with that same force. And I think if you guys hadn't taken that approach with it, I'm not sure if it would have connected in the same way. 'Cause yeah, sure, a good song's a good song, but sometimes stuff hits a little different. And that one definitely does. I have, correct me if I'm wrong, was 7, I think you guys were on the Jon Stewart show, right? Not the Daily Show. Is that, am I remember correctly? He used to have a, God. All right. So this is something where I just talk about really old guy stuff, I guess. But like, for the younger listeners and watchers, before the Daily Show, even, he had a talk show where he would basically have like bands like Girls Against Boys and like, you know, real like cool, awesome bands that if you listen to this show, you're probably into, and he would have them play. And I have recollection of you guys playing that and just being like, who are these guys? Like, what this is nuts, which is good. You're trying to, you know, pre-internet, it was hard to find stuff. Was that like, I mean, that's kind of a wild time for you guys. Like, was that something that even like stuck out as you? Was that a good experience? Was that, and I always ask people about their talk show experience. I asked Red Fang about Letterman too.
Oh man. Okay. So yeah, I've played on So I played on Jimmy Fallon, the Jon Stewart show, Letterman, and God, I can't remember the other guy's name. Oh, anyway, always hyper awkward.
Yeah.
And always hyper awkward and uncomfortable. And it's just, there's something about playing on a television show that is just kind of a mind fuck.
It seems so unnatural somehow, you know. It's just, like, it's sort of like, wait, is this a show? No, this is definitely not a show.
yeah No, yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. Yeah, it's very strange. But I mean, there were people there. There was an audience there, I guess, whatever. So that was different than like the 120 minutes thing that Sunny Day did, where it's literally like crickets, like dead silent, But even that was so it's uncomfortable. I think that we felt so this is probably going to sound kind of silly, but there was an aspect to that band's music that was hyper personal and almost in a way not really ever intended to be heard or seen by anyone. Yeah. It was this thing that we were doing, and it was like for me, it was all about like this sort of like I'm not going to guess, it's going to get heavy, but so it was hyper personal, and we a lot of times it felt like even playing shows for a while felt like somebody was like watching you go to the bathroom or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like maybe that's not the best analogy, but you know what I mean? Like, it was I guess that's why it's cheesy as it sounds. I think that's probably why we named that first record.
Yeah, well, because it does have that aspect of like
I feel stupid saying that.
No,
it's so cheesy, but that's true. That's actually the case. So being on television, even more so, like especially back then, was just very So, and I also studied. I studied stage fright for years. I did. No, I really did. I did
my master's thesis in it, actually.
Yeah. So, pretty much, I have magna cum laude and whatever in stage fright. But yeah. So I suffered from studying that for a long time, and so then there's that element. So yeah, it was always very it's been a long road for me, like working towards getting the inner game together, and trying to not give in to thought patterns, like to try to like observe your thoughts and not identify them, especially during a live show, and try to let them fly by, So it's a challenge, It's like you've got to try to stay out of your head, take your brain and put it in the back seat as much as possible. Your conscious mind.
Yeah, it's like a Zen thing almost, it seems like, where you just have to I'm feeling this now. This is now happening. Like become like a bit of an observer and not let yourself be affected by it, right?
To the best of your ability.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, I by no means have I perfected any of that. It's like, but compared to back then, I've made some progress in that, in regards.
We're all works in progress, William. Don't worry.
Yeah, that much is certain. Yeah, forever a student in performance anxiety.
Seven's that's a wild song too. Like that's a bold opener. Like that's kind of like that's a statement of intent song, I think, as I usually tend to call it. Was there ever any thought to that? I mean, was it ever like, this is definitely going to be the song that we rip into this with, or is it just like, that's good to start it. That's good.
Yeah, no, like that was a song where we had the additional ideas, especially with like the break where Jeremy sings, and then the part that goes but whatever, that was very much so, and just completely like directly taken from Neurosis.
Oh, cool. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because but from that first, I guess technically the second record, Word is Law, Pain of Mind was the first one. Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so
I can talk Neurosis, my friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So we used to listen to that record, to death. So it doesn't sound anything like Neurosis. It's just Neurosis was and ours was anyway. So this is live, great. Right? Good. Yeah. So so that was inspired by that, and then we had that idea of the break, where Jeremy was singing, and then I think we probably stared at the ground in the same room, just like everybody with their instruments, or at their instruments, and stared at the ground for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out
Like
how to seal this. We had gotten to a certain point, and then we couldn't figure out how to seal to end it.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
How do you
So,
wrap it
and
up?
we had like literally we're just standing there like staring, just thinking for hours. And then I don't remember how we ended up figuring it out, but we managed to just fight through to get to the other side and finish that song. But which ended up having to be edited. We had a tendency to like not realize, we didn't, be like, oh, let's go to this part again. It's like,
cool part,
that a lot. Yeah. So, yeah. And Sub Pop is like, cool. You guys mind if we,
Hey, 7-minute song, bros.
yeah.
Just
So,
because the song's called 7 doesn't mean it has to be 7 minutes long. No.
Yeah. So, yeah, we didn't have a filter in any regard, actually, at all. So, yeah.
Well, now that we're talking about numbers, the numbers, are those like the order that you wrote them in, or anything along those lines? Like what do the numbers signify? Like the numbered songs?
So the numbers signified, so the 7, 8, and 9 were like the 7th, 8th, and 9th songs that we had written since Jeremy joined the band. And then the songs 47 and 48 were the 47th and 48th songs that we had written since we had started the project initially, even before Jeremy. So
you had 2 individual counts then. Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I don't remember whose bright idea it was to name a song like that.
Some numerologist somewhere, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, it was me, but so that then we would have a tendency. They'd be like, Nate or somebody would say, "So wait, what's this one going to be called?" And then they would look at me, and I would throw a name out. I'd be like, "Flatland Spider." I don't think I'm responsible for It's Scarabade, but yeah, but then Jana was basically just for, because the Pink record didn't have any lyrics, so it was kind of hard for the most part, except for like 2 songs that we had written a long time ago. But aside from that, the Pink record doesn't have lyrics at all, so it's all just literally like stream of consciousness, basically just Jeremy just going. And so except for Rodeo Jones, which was recorded during Diary, but not put on Diary. So then we put that, and then that song 8, which we had recorded for a 7-inch long time before. And so like a song like Jana is just basically based on the sound that the guitar makes at the end. We didn't have any sort of like, we didn't really have any subject matter, because there were no lyrics at all. So
I kind of love that though, because then people can sort of write their own internal story about it, and it's like, no, it's literally the sound the guitar makes.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I think I honestly think that's awesome. Like it's
yeah.
Especially for a band that not only has depth but has been ascribed depth, where it's like, I think you're reading too much into this, pal, but I appreciate the pluck.
Well, I'm not saying that. So even though Jeremy's lyrics were very much so stream of consciousness, like that means like they were from his subconscious, and that's a heavy place. So I wouldn't necessarily say that the lyrics were nonsense. They just were on the spot. Although I wasn't there. He recorded the vocals. So we recorded the Pink record with just Jeremy and Dan and I, and then Dan came in afterwards and recorded his guitar separately, and then we went on tour with Shudder to Think and Brainiac, and then eventually Soul Coughing took over after that. But like we did that tour. We were broken up and we did that tour, and then Jeremy recorded the vocals after that tour. So kind of weird.
That is kind of weird. So the second record, like, was it just nobody could agree on an art idea, or you're just like, hey, we're gonna make a statement, like this record?
Tom
Johnson.
There was so again, I have to apologize for this. So they had sent, I think we were at the Black Cat or something, and somebody had brought to the show or gotten a package or something that had artwork ideas for the second Sunny Day record, and we were looking at it, and it was like a close up of like Jesus's eye or something, and all this weird shit. And I was like, what the hell is all this shit? I was like, none of this has anything to do with anything that we have anything to do with. So I called him and I was like, look, that artwork is just seems kind of random and doesn't make any sense to, you know, I mean, not that it's crappy. It's not good artwork. Yeah. So I said, look, and we were not, and to, you know, and I say that it's probably not, it wasn't the most mature approach back then for us, but we weren't very mature, as we just were like not very interested in trying to come up with anything either. So I talked to Sub Pop and I just said, look, if nobody's going to like come up with an idea, and I was at the airport and I said, if nobody's going to come up with an idea that anybody can agree on or come up with an idea at all, just make the thing pink. And then but I was joking. It was a joke.
And then you see the proofs and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, just make the thing pink. And then I said something about throwing a fly on it. And then, you know, like I was like, you know, like but I was joking though. I was joking, but yeah. Well, no one ever listens. No one ever listens to what the drummer says. It's like, so I didn't even, I thought it was obvious that I was joking. I didn't know that they were going to take the ball and run with it.
But hey, you know, there's a rich history to it. You know, there's some band called the Beatles. They did okay by that. You know, Metallica.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I mean, yeah. So yeah. Well, jeez, you want to talk about band names? That's like all right. You know, it's a good thing that the band defines the name, because boy, Sunny Day Real Estate is like, I'm like, wow. It's a terrible name. It's a terrible name. It is. It's a terrible band name. I mean, it's like, it's almost like, it's like, It's like almost like putting a weird obstacle in front of yourself on purpose. You know, it's like, you know, so like I said, thank God the band defines the name, because we would be screwed. You know?
Well, and there's look. There are a lot of bands around that era that we can. I mean, I adore Archers of Loaf, right? But wow, way to kick yourself in the dick there, boys. And I've said that to them too. Like they've. Yeah. But again, if the music's good enough, then it imbues meaning.
The band defines the name. So thank God. Yeah.
I never really, honestly, gave it that much thought, because at the time, just it seemed like, you know, 3-4 word band names were like, oh yeah, whatever, you know. Cool. Yeah. That's our bands have like long names. Okay. Or they have one word, you know, unwound.
Yeah. We were for a while we were called Chewbacca Kaboom. Everything was beautiful. Everything was beautiful and nothing hurt.
That's a lot.
Thief Steal Me a Peach. Grendel. We were called Grendel for a while.
Grendel's not bad, but that sounds like I would think of a metal band now, even though I love the story.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And
Grendel. There's. Okay.
And I think there was one more. Oh yeah. And we were called Empty Set for a while. Yeah.
And that which is like Central Casting indie rock band name, right? It's like Empty Set. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, you know, the only thing that I really regret is that all the stuff that we had written before Jeremy, that nobody even threw a boombox up to record that stuff. I'm just like,
just lost the time.
It kills me. It kills me because that was a super inspiring, massively transitional period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for me, like, you know, it was I was like, wow, this is definitely the most original sort of music I've ever been a part of, like, you know, writing. Like, this is really crazy. So just really unique stuff, and super tragic that none of it was ever recorded. It kind of killed me.
It's kind of weird to think about, because now there's this idea like, well, of course you record everything, right? But like that wasn't really a pervasive cultural concept
Yeah, I wish it was.
Yeah,
I wish it was
nice,
just
right?
for that reason. Yeah.
Exactly. It would have lost some gold along the way, right? But
there was like I think what is I don't know, the videotapes that are about not the mini DVs, but the ones I don't know, is it High 8 or something?
High 8,
or,
yeah.
Yeah. So I had one of those cameras, and so there was my friend Matt recorded an entire practice that we did once, and man, I've been digging and searching for that tape for so long, and just can't find it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna be
No,
awesome.
It would be
even
awesome
just
to find
even
it.
just to watch it would be amazing, right? Let alone be able to share it. I mean, that's got to be like time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just because. Yeah, I mean, it was just it was a really fun, inspired time for sure. It was after that too, but just leading up to it, for sure.
So the band at that point, like in its initial run, it's kind of is it just feeling like it's run its course at that point? Did you feel that there was like much of a future with Sunny Day at that moment in time?
Yeah, totally. But we had we all lived together and we toured together, so that's
Like
always kind of hard. Yeah, kind of like the Monkeys, but then with also other additional roommates. So Monkeys and friends. So it was you're together every day, you get on each other's nerves, I suppose. But then so there was that element, but I don't think that. So we had our own sort of like inner sort of turmoil, but for me, like it was never a thing where we were gonna like break the band up because of it. We were just get in fights, but keep doing the band. So, which is what you do, right? So, but
it happens.
But Jeremy was young and Jeremy was going through a thing which I completely appreciate and respect, and that was his path, and that path meant that he needed to leave the band. So so that was that.
He had what he had to pursue, right? And there's not much.
Yeah. So, and I at the time, I didn't respect it very much, but over the years, he and I both have sort of like evolved and sort of ended up kind of meeting each other in the middle, like, so I was very, very much so extreme one direction. He was very much so extreme another direction. And we both kind of stopped being so extreme in that direction and started to understand. I sort of see the big picture a little more. So so that's a nice thing,
Yeah.
But
getting a little older can be nicer.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, and then
perspective.
And then you learn why you were so extremely against a certain thing, and that was because there are certain elements that were maybe not so cool, but you have a tendency to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, if you basically just completely demonize and vilify every aspect of a certain thing,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that way that young folks.
I'm being vague, but I'm talking about religion.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's an elephant in the room, but it's definitely a thing that's a part of the Sunday real estate story, especially like there wasn't the internet as we know it now, right? There wasn't like this instant communication and hot take industrial complex and memes and whatever. Thank goodness.
Hot take industrial complex.
Yeah.
That's a funny. I'll have to remember that one.
But
sorry,
but
yeah.
Even then it was like, oh, I heard the singer from Sunday Real Estate, like, found Jesus and was like, oh, okay, I didn't know he's lost. But but then like whatever, everyone's running their own race, right? And it was
sure.
I was like, oh, that's just a shame they're not being a band anymore. That's a drag.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. And it was a bummer. It was a bummer. It was a drag, but at the same time, it is what it is. Everything went the way it went. Can't undo it now. So it's like,
it's part of the
yeah. But oddly enough, Jeremy and I are far closer. Our friendship is so like bulletproof at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, literally there's no fire that could burn it.
Yeah. It's like forged in fire, right? So it's like,
oh yeah. yeah. And it's been a long road, but there's been a lot of really great conversations and a lot of healing and a lot of like things that needed to be said and talked about that a long time ago that should have been talked about, you know. So so that's been great. And Dan and I have basically been able to reestablish a friendship again, which is also extremely concretized and solid. So it's a really great thing. So it's really nice to be able to reunite with those guys. And, you know, it's like when I'm hanging out, sitting in a room with those guys, it just has this weird feeling of, has this kind of home feeling. You're at home kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're just like, it's like because you know, throughout everything, for the most part, with the exception of like the fire theft, like, you know, like Dan and Jeremy and I have like really kind of like gone through kind of quite a few sort of chapters together, you know. So, you know what I mean? A lot of time, you know, smoking like terrible weed out of an apple, you know, in a snowstorm, in snowstorms, you know, stuff like that. But, you know,
sure, yeah.
No, I mean, we didn't just do that. Sometimes we got good weed, but I mean, at that particular point,
but that level of bonding and you know, almost like if you're in the trenches with someone in like a battle or something, I suppose, where it's like an effable in a way.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, so, and I mean, you know, Dan and I have had our pretty heavy falling out, but it was pretty astonishing to be able to actually like heal that. So that's a good thing. So,
yeah. How do you even begin with that? Is that just something where you're like someone's got to make the first move, right? So
time and
asking for a friend anyway.
time and Jeremy really was the one that kind of was the catalyst behind trying to like pull us together and heal the wounds and talk things out. And so we did it, you know. Yeah. And it was very eye-opening. I'll say that, you know, for sure. You know, it's like there's so many perspectives that each person has had that they've held on to for so long that need to be communicated, that, you know, and then, you know, you always end up running the risk of the people being misunderstood, you know, or misunderstanding each other, when really you just need to fucking sit down and have a fucking conversation, you know? So there, you know, and, you know, I mean, that's something that we weren't very good at, but we bit the bullet and forced ourselves to be good at it recently. So yeah, or 5-6 months ago. Yeah. Give or take.
Well, and I wish there was more of a kind of avenue of exploration, especially for guys, I think, to just be able to do that more naturally and not have it feel like off-putting or weird to, I don't know if I necessarily have a point with this, but just more of an observation culturally that it's crazy that there seems to be so much conflict bias in our culture that it's like, well, of course they're enemies now. Well, is that really an of course statement? I don't think it's an of course statement.
Yeah. No, I mean, people, like being able to shut the hell up and listen to each other, you know what I mean? And then, be able to respectfully agree to disagree if you know, you do on some things, but still being able to have a conversation and see the other person's perspective, or at least try to. Yeah, there could be a whole lot more of that going around. but hey, you know, we definitely sucked at it. So, you know, so
you got there. I mean,
yeah. But I mean, for me, I mean, I guess I didn't as much suck at it as I I fell off the face of the earth for 9 years. I mean, I literally, when I like didn't play music for 9 years, I also literally spoke to no one. I just disappeared. I just completely just shut everything. I closed off the entire world. So, you know, and yeah. So
I mean, did you just feel like there was no point to it? Like there's no avenue of engagement or support that would have made things better, or was it just like a distancing effect, externalizing what was inside of you? Like,
that's complicated.
feel free to put down on the couch when you answer that, by the way.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot of ingredients to that.
Yeah.
And one of which being that I kind of just sort of like, okay. So there's people that have a tendency to, for one reason or another, like attract, and I'm not saying this about anybody from Sunny Day, but I'm just saying, like, there was a lot of interactions that I had in my life that were vampiric, but not I wasn't receiving the like when you sort of have enough sort of like run-ins with people that have like a narcissistic, sociopathic sort of behavior patterns that, essentially just like take advantage of the fact that you look at things the way you think that you see them, and so you sort of like take things at face value, and you kind of like don't see that why would this person, say this thing, but then stab me in the back, or you know what I mean? Why would they like, so I got to a point where I was like, it seems like compassion for all, trust for few, but it doesn't really seem like me interacting with other people really works out too well. So I'm just going to not do that anymore. So, and I just basically disappeared, and then, started fatherhood, and, use that as an excuse a lot
to come back, come out a little bit.
No, I use it as an excuse, as a way to like basically keep, being too busy to.
Oh, the other way around. So keeping people at a distance, kind of that way. Okay, that's. Well,
yeah, but I didn't even keep people at a distance. Like, they didn't know how to contact me. They didn't have a phone number. There was no way to get a hold of me.
Wow.
So yeah, I just completely just chopped the head off. Like, I just completely took away any ability to actually contact me. So yeah. So, I mean, I'm still, like I said, like I was also going through some really interesting things that I can only imagine are the results. So like, everybody has someone close to them die. I'm not going to sit here and go through the list, but the list is ridiculous. And I remember I was seeing a shrink once, and he said, if you were in the trenches of World War I, it would probably be normal. He goes, but he goes, I have to be honest, it's a little weird. He goes, it's a little weird. And you start to almost feel like you're being like punished by something, or chased, because it just didn't stop. It didn't stop. It was just like, bam, 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 bam. It's just like, I mean, it's unbelievable. The range and like the sort of all the different aspects of my life, like family to music to, I mean, just all over the place, like just people dropping like flies. And I was like, just kind of like starting to lose it a little bit. And and I think I like I said, I don't know. I'm not 100% certain, but I mean, I guess maybe what I was going through was like a PTSD thing.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. So, so it's also difficult for, it's like, it's hard to see, a other people when they're looking at you, when you know that they can tell that you're losing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was losing it. So, you know what I mean? So I decided, I also decided it was probably best to go insane in private. So there was that as well. So, but, over time, I slowly worked out of it, and the things that were happening, stopped happening, like weird stuff was happening. And I don't know how to explain it. I mean, other than maybe I was like losing it, but I was seeing things, and like I would get caught in these loops of finding out about my sister's death, and then finding out about my brother's death, finding out about my mother's death, and they would get caught in this loop where it would start at the finding out, and then it would go to like the certain like crescendo that I won't specify to, and then it'll pick up and it'll go to finding out about that, and then it'll go, and then it'll leap, and then it'll go back, and it'll go around, and it won't stop, and then you don't have the luxury of shock to protect you, and so you're feeling it as if it's really happening right there, but then you're not thrown into shock, so you feel the full trauma. And I would get hit by those, and it was just incapacitating. I was just like, I would get stuck there, and it was not a pleasant thing. So I literally had, I obviously, it was probably best I needed some time to try to process all that stuff, and but having kids has really been helpful because once they're around, I was like, oh, okay, well, so regardless of anything, no matter how difficult anything is, I have to keep fighting. I have to keep, I have to stay strong, and I have to keep fighting, and do everything I can to make sure they're okay, and to protect them, and to try to like help their minds as much as possible. So as much as I can, and so that's been a really good thing. And I think that really kind of helped me evolve out of that, whatever that was, But yeah. So yeah, it was a crazy time, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a wheel of loss and trauma,
Yeah.
It's and I think, when that kind of scenario happens, like even well-meaning concern can, almost do harm in the fact that you just don't want to drag people into it, right? You don't want to have them be involved.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, plus, it's like, how fun is that to be around? Anyway, but I mean,
Well, yeah, there's that too. Sure.
Yeah. For a good time, do not call me. It's like, I can't, I'm not going to, but yeah, no, it was, and yeah. And I mean, and I knew, I could tell that I was, that I was barely hanging on, by a thread, like literally felt like I was holding on to my sanity by a thread. And so it's always hard to see someone seeing that, you know what I mean? It's difficult enough to be experiencing it, but when you see someone like seeing it, and projecting it onto you, it's like, better not.
Yeah.
Well, just,
it almost feels like you're encumbering them somehow or something, right? Just by existing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not true.
It doesn't
that's
feel,
how it feels.
and and it does feel, and it doesn't feel good, because you're like, what do you think, I'm crazy? And you're like, oh yeah, they probably do. You know what I mean? So yeah, but hey, but luckily that stuff, and I mean, it's like yeah, I mean, if I sat here and I basically like went through, this whole thing, it would make sense, I think, why I was struggling with it a little bit.
Because it's cumulative. It adds. It's not just one. It's not just one thing. It adds and adds and adds and until you just become used to it as if it was something that was normal.
Yeah. And also, when you start finding how do I say it? Like these weird coincidences or synchronicities within like deaths. And I know that's kind of weird and vague, but if I try to get specific, we don't want to go there. So
it's a different kind of show. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and we can move away from this, but I mean, it is what it is, you know? So, but yeah, anyway, so back to Sunny Day. Sorry.
No, not at all. I mean, I think that this is, look, first of all, I appreciate your candor in speaking about it, because I think a lot of people, you know, they have these kinds of things in their life and it makes them feel like a freak and alone and not a part of the world. Or if you're a part of the world, you're just there to basically take the hit. And I think through the telling of these stories, and again, not to fetishize it or anything, I think you can find you can
God, how could anyone do such a thing?
Oh well, I mean, gosh, that's just, again.
Okay, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, but anyway,
people find value in the stories. Let's put it that way. And I know that because people write me about it, and
yeah,
I usually don't really know what to say other than thanks, you know, and like thanks for listening.
Yeah,
but it's real.
Everybody experiences like the loss of a loved one, you know. So I mean, it doesn't matter if it's just one time. You know, but I mean,
2 in the last 7 months. My mom and my bandmate / brother of 20 years. So,
I'm sorry, man.
Vern last year, LK in the year before that. Like it hasn't been 6 months without someone important to me dying, and whatever. And it happens more and more as you get older. But it does.
It does. Yeah. But if you are someone who it's been happening since you were a kid, and kept happening and then kept happening and kept happening, and you start to feel weird, I'm here to tell you that it's okay to feel weird, because
it is weird. Yeah.
Anyone in their mind would feel weird. So for sure.
Well, did you ever?
Yeah.
God, it's such a hokey thing to bring up. But did you ever see Good Will Hunting? That film?
I did, but it was so long ago I can't remember it actually.
Well, I quite like it, and there's all these reasons why I maybe shouldn't like it or whatever, but I think it's a very well made film, and
I remember liking it. I just can't remember it. Yeah.
There's an incredible scene where the Robin Williams character is just like hugs the Matt Damon character and just over and over again says, "It's not your fault." It's not your fault. And it's sort of like the thing where it's like the acting exercise where the words mean something different every time, kind of thing. It's an incredibly powerful scene, and
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Wow, that is intense.
Yeah, it's freaking just on cable the other night, and I saw that. I was like, oh my God, I'm like deeply affecting stuff, man. And I don't know. I this stuff's got to be dragged into the light, right? Or it just sits there and grows and festers.
Well, I mean, it's a part of the human experience.
Yeah.
And I mean, you need to roll with it and then try to like shift your perspective. And I mean, for me, I like sort of came to a point where I was like, okay, so energy doesn't stop. Energy keeps going. So therefore, there's got to be some element of the human energy, spirit that goes somewhere. It doesn't just go into like nothing. I have no idea what that is. I can't even begin. I even tried to see if I could like maybe like do some sleuthing and figure it out, but of course, no way. Like
doing your own
digging. Doing my own research on death. Like what happens? Come on. But there.
Local drummer figures out afterlife.
Yeah. So obviously, I think I found some comfort in that, even though it's it's a gigantic question mark, but it's just the idea that energy keeps going.
Well, I mean, look at basic physics, right? Energy is not lost, it's just transferred. Right?
Yeah, precisely.
So it's, again, just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's hokum. And and again, I think that's the correct way of looking at it, and from a position of curiosity rather than some manner of judgment.
Correct. Yeah. No, I'm stuck. I mean, happily stuck in the beginner mind, like for forever. Like it's like I've learned that I just have no idea. I just don't know, So yeah, no idea. But yeah. But
So yeah, this is a heavier turn than I expected, but
sorry, man.
but I dig it because it's.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. But it's part of the deal, That's
you
what
got
happened,
the. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't change a second of it. But it's. Well, I'm shocked by how many people just don't want to talk about this kind of thing. Like they feel like just like not exploring it means it doesn't exist somehow. And it's like, well, it still exists. It's still going to be something you have to deal with.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's like, well, why did you fall off the face of the earth for 9 years? Well, the answer is part of the answer is that and the effect that it had on me. So it's just kind of, you know what I mean? It's like, because otherwise it's like, oh, I don't know. I just felt like it. I just felt like disappearing for 9 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the big reasons, aside from being sort of like just jaded and disenchanted by music industry and also just yucky stuff, in that regard. So, yeah.
But I think I like what you mentioned too about, the fact that when you have kids too, like you have to, you have to put effort into, for lack of a better term, giving a damn, right? I mean, you like it takes the choice off the table to not do so.
Yeah.
Unless you're, I guess, unless you just suck or something. I don't know, but like, it's a catalyst to kind of find the light a little bit. I would think. I don't have any myself, but it seems to be that seems to be the opinion that. Tell me.
Yeah, one of the hardest things was me like trying to it's like, shit, I have kids, I've got to support, my family, trying to, and then trying to like being a person with like 0 college degree and like literally some career work experience, trying to find a job that actually pays more than shit,
right? All that indie cred is not bankable tender that you should deposit it.
No, and then it was always really, really weird because wherever I would work, then eventually somebody would somehow either figure out or whatever about what things I'd done in the past, and then it becomes really strange because they're like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Oh God. Yeah.
So it's really complicated. It's like, you know what I mean? It's just like, and then it's like, and then you find yourself having to basically, why'd you quit the Foo Fighters? It's like, oh man, I'm so sick and tired. I'm so sick and tired of having to tell this story that really sucks, And if you tell the story, you sound like you're a whiner, but it's like you're just telling what happened. So it's like,
right.
It's that's an unfortunate sort of double-edged or whatever, unfortunate thing, That whole thing is just that's the only thing, to be honest. Like, I mean, like that's the only band that I ever sometimes like wish that I could remove that from.
Really? Just like redact it from your history?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's been nothing but a pain in my ass. That's just nothing but a pain in my ass. It's just like, and it's like, and it doesn't matter what happened because I mean, the Foo Fighters are like Disney, it's like, dude, everybody loves Mickey Mouse.
Right, exactly.
Everybody wants to love Mickey Mouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who doesn't like Mickey Mouse? Fascists?
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's a difficult thing to like, to be like, dude, Mickey, whatever. Mickey was real rough around the edges, but I mean, so it's a no-win scenario. And so I would rather just remove it, to be honest, or ultimately what I think the best thing to do would actually sit down and have a long conversation with Mickey.
Right. Yeah. let's have a one-on-one with the mouse.
No, I'm just saying. No, yeah. I'm not comparing Dave Grohl to Mickey Mouse at all. I'm saying that their level of everybody like wanting to love them is on par with like say Disney, So yeah. So or it's up there. So sometimes I wish I could remove that from the past, or just sit down and have a really, really long conversation with Dave.
Yeah.
Which I've never been able to do.
Wow. That's such a bummer because it's.
Oh yeah. That's the one thing, because to me, because, you know, and then it's like, I've had unhealthy ways that I've like, whatever, like stated things, and especially things that have been misunderstood, and they've taken the wrong ball and run with it. And even after I've clarified things, they still run with the wrong ball. So,
yeah,
you know, and it's just like, but the you deal with things like not in the best way when there is no access to resolution, you know. So when there's no access to like actually just like sitting down with the person or people, whatever, and literally like just going there and hashing it out and getting to the other side, you know. I feel like if we would have done that a long time ago, Dave and I would be friends to this day.
Right, because it doesn't. I mean,
that's all it takes is a conversation.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's unsolvable, right? It's
I mean, it's good. It'll be a very long and difficult conversation, but you know, I'm a reasonable human being, I believe, you know. So I mean, that's one thing. So yeah, either remove that from my history or have a conversation,
find a resolution. And I think it's fascinating to me as a complete outsider, just to be like, hey, let's take this guy who's a really interesting and unique drummer, not have him play like that in any way, shape, or form for this thing that clearly had, loved or hated, a very articulated vision that he had, and call it one thing, but it's another. And it's like, well, that's fine, but you didn't have I feel like you didn't have the stones to like call it what it was. Like if you're just saying like, hey, I want you to play my shit, it sounds like, yeah, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Right? But to be like, hey, we're going to collaborate and do a cool thing. Great. That sounds awesome, Mr. Rockstar guy.
That's what it was going to be initially, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I think he probably wanted it to be that, but hadn't been exercising that muscle for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's okay. I mean, dude, Dave is hyper brilliant, hyper talented, extraordinarily so. Just hands down, no denying it. I absolutely respect him in that regard. You know what I mean? But just the way things happened, you know, to be honest, much of what happened, I still have to speculate. I still have to like, I guess what must have happened is this, or this is what I think is probably what happened, because
you're filling in the blanks.
You know, I would get little pieces of information from a few people here and there, you know, they'd be like, no, don't tell anybody I told you, you know, it's like, you know, but like the guy who's the house engineer there at the studio we're working at, like, you know, he basically came to me and said, hey, you know, this is what happened. Like, you do a take and Dave would say that's a take, and Gil would say nope every time, you know. So, you know, and but he's like, but I didn't tell you that, and you didn't hear it from me, and I never talked to you. I'm just like, okay. So I won't name I won't name him, but you know, it's like,
yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah. So, you know, because, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about that situation, we can just talk about it a little bit. But if what I had done was just astronomically horrible, I would say, okay, yeah, of course that makes sense. But that wasn't the case. What was hard for me is that I worked really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I was run through the ringer. Yeah. Well, and I was run through the ringer. Gil was very. So when we were just trying to get the drum sounds, I was out there with Greg Keplinger, who was my drum tech at the time. And he's like, no one's ever complained about him working on the drums to get sounds for a session. Like, no one's ever complained, you know, but no matter what we did, no matter what Greg Keplinger did, every single time Gil was just like, no, it just doesn't sound good. No good. And so Keplinger was just like, well, what the hell does this guy want? So what I've deduced is what he wanted was
Dave to play the drums,
to make a record that Dave was, played drums on, as well as being, Dave's record, but it was a feather in his cap. That's what he wanted, and I'm pretty sure management wanted it that way. And I'm pretty sure the label did, so, and I mean, that's fine, but it's like, it just sucked that I had to go, for 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks, 13 hours a day, like, just, it was really, really hard work. So
yeah,
it was just a drag to like have that, and I just never understood it. So, I mean, I never understood it because then the whole story was from Gil Norton was that they decided they needed to redo like a couple few tracks for drums. And he said the first of which being Monkey Wrench. And I was like, well, that makes absolutely no sense because the Monkey Wrench that's on the record is literally identical to what I did. It's literally identical. So, and the only way, and I wish I had the recording from those sessions, but I have the demo, which doesn't sound as good, but you can listen to the demo and it's the same. So it's like, so why was that how come that had to be redone? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And then how did a few songs turn into all of them? And that's just never been explained to me. So I would it would be privately have a conversation to just get an understanding of what the hell happened and why, you know what I mean? And I'm perfectly willing to admit my faults back then. I was a kid, I was drinking too much, not before I played, but afterwards for sure. You know what I mean? I started because I was, we were on the road for 17 months. And
it's a thing that happens, like,
well, you're on the road for 17 months and you're never ever surrounded by anything that's a reflection of who you are.
Right.
And
got all this downtime between the sound check.
Yeah. No, because I never ever drank before I played. I couldn't drink and play. So it was always afterwards, it's like when you're on the road for that long, you're already having a hard time getting an understanding of who you are as a human being, late teens, early 20s, and your feet are very much so not on the ground. So it's very easy to kind of start to lose yourself. On top of that, then for 17 months, you're pounding these songs into the ground that aren't yours.
Right. Yeah. This is someone else's stuff.
Yeah. So, and I started to kind of really lose a sense of self.
Because you're unmoored from reality a little bit anyway, just normally when you're out on tour for a long time. But to have it be like, I mean, that's hardly a tour. That's like a whole an odyssey.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a long time to be on tour. I mean, we had like a couple 2-week breaks, Yeah. But I mean, it was really like, I know it was 17 months because Pat Smear went out of his way, who I was usually always roommates with, went out of his way to keep track of how long we'd been out. And he would keep me updated. And it would be like 11 months, 15 months. And then it's like, he's like 17 months. I'm just like, dude. This is crazy. So
Pat counts the months and you count the songs, is what it sounds like. That.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, like yeah. So yeah, like because he was astonished.
Yeah,
he was like couldn't believe it. He was like, I can't believe we've been on tour for this long. So, but so it's a weird situation. It would be nice to have a conversation and be able to not have it be sort of like dealt with in unhealthy sort of outbursts on my part or whatever, or have
it be sensationalized, have it be turned into
that's what really sucks, man. It's just like, especially when it's like somebody misunderstood what you said, but it was my fault for fucking saying it like a jerk anyway because I was fucking pissed. I was annoyed, So, I mean, I didn't use the best words. So yeah, that was my fault. I could be a little rough around the edges. I'll admit it. But when you clarify it but people are still, they're like, oh no, like the problematic one. Let's do the problematic one.
Right. Yeah, say the thing, say your line. Yeah, come on.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah. And I mean, it's like, there was the whole thing. Everybody thought that I said that Dave was responsible for the last 90-day record not coming to fruition. I was saying, no, it was left at the studio that he owns.
Right.
That's where it was left.
Right.
But that's not, and it's like, and even recently there was an interview that was done with Dave that Justin said that he read, and he said that the guy was going out of his way to ask Dave these questions he was trying to piss him off. And he was brought up that whole thing about, he's like, William Goldsmith, holds you responsible for the last Sunny Day record not, being, coming to fruition or whatever. And it's like, dude. And then after he pisses Dave off, then he goes, well, he actually did clarify it later. And say, it's just like, dude.
Now that you're angry, actually.
Yeah, I know. It's like, dude, I don't know, man. But yeah. But actually, Justin said that Dave kept his composure pretty well, because this guy was throwing all kinds of just horrible. It's like, dude, why would you? I wouldn't even say that to a person in like a conversation with someone who I knew really well.
It's like you're buddies with. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just like, dude, I mean, anyway, so it sucks, but if there, I don't know, and I'm sure Dave would never see this or hear this, but if he did, it would be nice to have a conversation. And I still respect him. And to be honest, love him in a way, like the way a brother loves a brother, even if he doesn't want to. So
it seems like that shouldn't be that hard of a pull, right? I mean, like, he's a busy dude, sure, but just have a chat. It's cool.
Yeah,
it's like whatever. Have a chat.
Yeah. So
I'll broker it.
You can consider that. You can consider that an invitation.
There you go.
But who knows? But
stranger things have literally happened. So I mean,
indeed, yeah. So. But we can move on from all that stuff. God, we've gone from heavy to uncomfortable.
Well, okay. So there's that whole escapade, right? And then there's the how it feels to be something on, which is so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a real interesting record, because again, in real time, it was sort of like, oh, they're back. Like, what? What's cool? What they're doing? Oh, cool. They're back. Yeah. What did it take to for that to happen? Like, what was our catalyst for that, or was that just something where
there was an idea to put out like a record on Sub Pop, because we signed a 3-record deal with them, so we'd made 2, so we technically kind of owed them another record. So the idea was to the idea was to find some old recordings of things or whatever and put out what they called a rarities record, which I for some reason I get annoyed by that. Anyway, the rarities thing, I'm just like, ugh. I don't know. I just sound so pretentious to me. Anyway, but that was the idea, and then we came to realize that there really wasn't enough material to make a full record. So then we're like, okay, well then what we'll do is we'll write a few songs and record those, and then put those on to fill it out. And I'm like, well, that seems kind of weird. I mean, it's like, why don't we just, I don't know. Well, okay. So then we just started writing, and then we wrote, and then we started writing, and then just kept going. And that was it. And we started writing originally with Nate, and then he was gone on tour, and we didn't hear from him for a long time. And we were a little bit annoyed by that, because we were just like, dude,
that's got to be kind of weird, right? I mean, like,
well, what was annoying is that we didn't even hear from him. And so then when finally he called, he said, hey, are we going to make a record? And I said, not with you, and hung up, which was probably lame, but we were pretty annoyed, because we were like, we didn't know when he was going to be back. We just no word, no
communication, no,
zero, none. So that was kind of annoying. And so then we just decided to just go forward without him. And that's when we ended up Jeff Palmer, who was in a band called the Mommy Heads that Sunny Day had played with on tour like way like years before, and he's a phenomenal bass player. So
yeah,
he ended up playing on the record, but then he didn't end up touring. So Joe Skyward actually ended up touring. But yeah, that record is somebody told me once that they took acid and listened to that record, and I was like, dude, I was like, and they were like, no, it was great. I was like, oh man, lucky. That's
that could have gone either way.
That could have gone for, yeah, I would have gone south so fast. I would have been terrified and like alone and like scared. That to me, that record is kind of scary.
Yeah,
It's disconcerting in a way.
Disconcerting is a good term for it. Like it's got a disconcerting energy to it, which isn't bad. Sure. It's just, it's
not party music.
It's not party music. Exactly.
It's definitely not. Yeah,
I mean, and hey, that's fine. That's it serves a place. When you want that, if you want that weird energy, it's definitely a good record, which is, I guess, more important than being able to bump it at the dance.
Yeah. It's a different kind of record.
Yeah, let's dance to this 5-minute prog odyssey of feelings. Yeah, great. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
You're in the mood for it, it's perfect, right?
Yeah. I am proud of that record though, because I felt like compared to the first two Sunny Day records, I had started to get moved more into the direction of a better pocket, stuff like that, like
I mean, all the drumming in that is real. That it's real solid, and definitely it sounds assured in a way that
to a certain degree. I don't know why we didn't use a click. I'm like, dude, why didn't we use a click? I am like, I don't understand. It's like I could play to a click. I played to a click, recorded to a click. I could do it. Why didn't we do it? Why didn't we record it? It would have been so much easier, but I don't know. I have to ask the engineer. Greg.
Didn't happen that way.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was a good experience. And then it was mixed by Adam Casper, and who did a really great job at mixing that. So, but yeah. Really then you have the Rising Tide after that, which I actually think that might be my favorite record by the band. Some people it's their least favorite, and other people, like for me, it's like we used a click. We used a click. So we used a click. We used a click.
We used a click.
We used a click. For me, I think that the only thing I don't like about my playing on that record is it's just slightly reserved. But I felt, where I was like, I need to respect the song and play for the song. And for me, I was like, you can marry it in the middle a little bit. It's like, you can respect and play the song, and you can find the pocket and be very strategic about kick and, beat placement to try to push the song in the best way. But you can also fly off the rails a little. So, which is good. So now I'm back. I feel like now I'm closer to a marriage of flying off the rails with a better pocket.
And a better. Well, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because it's like, I mean, I think Killed by an Angel kind of sounds like Rush a little bit, like your version of that anyway. Not that that's a bad thing, but like it's got that kind of adventure.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. Although I mean,
not that it sounds like a Rush.
Reserved.
Yeah. But it's got that kind of
sounds like a rock record.
It's a big rock. It's an arena rock record kind of sound.
Yeah.
And not in a bad way. Again, it just sounds. It's got a huge sound, and the songs deliver differently than they would have for earlier stuff.
Yeah, it was produced for sure. I mean, Lou Giordano, he did that Sugar Copper Blue record. He did the first two.
That's right. Yeah.
He did the first two Bob Mould records, the worksheet and Black Sheets of Rain.
Worksheet would be the B-sides.
Worksheets of Rain, Black Sheets of Book. So yeah, and Lou was really awesome to work with, and a very nice guy, very nice. So yeah.
So well, and that's again that's one that still holds up. right? Like that's a good record. That's a I know it's not as everyone loves Diary. Like that's the one that everyone like is gonna latch onto. But like I think Rising Tide is for the true heads to a certain degree.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah, I get what you mean. I think that so yeah, it was actually that. So it was those Rising Tide sessions where we were smoking a lot of really horrible ditch weed out of an apple, actually, by the way. So, and there was this sort of romantic aspect.
With the record stated, yeah.
Well, no, so we were in upstate New York, and it was massive snow everywhere, and so we lived in this little cabin, and then we recorded in this big old church from the 1800s, converted into a studio. And that was it was a fun experience. We were there for 3 months, so it was very, very, very cool. Fun,
I'd feel remiss if we didn't at least in passing mention the fire theft too, because I think that's an interesting.
Yeah. Fire theft was what I liked about the fire theft is that was my first time experiencing making a record in your house, and
right.
At least tracking, you know what I mean? At least tracking. Although it was still different back then because we had to pay a lot of money to have all that gear sent up, Brad's ticket to have it set up to our house in Kirkland. And then it looked like the cockpit of a 747 down to this little tiny room at this old farmhouse. But so now technology is the way, that it is to where you don't have to,
Yeah, you just here's my iPad.
Everything is well. Yeah, well, sort of to a certain degree, but I mean, yeah. So you can have a minimal stuff with still having the same, ability to produce.
And those early 2000s, that's kind of like when it seemed like things were starting to change as far as technology. Coming a long way that you could do more with. Literally do more with less, right?
Yeah, it was right at the cusp of that change when we were making that record. Like it was like things got way better, and what we had invested in gear wise became obsolete all of a sudden, like really quickly after that. That was a little bit of an inconvenience, but that was a really cool experience, and it was ever since then that I've been like, then I made another record with this band I was doing called Brawley Banks. We made it in that house. And after that, I was like, man, recording where you live is cool. If you can find a decent room and you can kind of use the house as almost like an instrument and kind of experiment and find the sweet spots and experiment with sort of unorthodox mic placement. It's pretty cool. It's really fun and a lot more comfortable. The studios can sometimes feel like you're at a dentist's or a doctor's office.
Right. It's got that clinical feel. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, it almost kind of takes your energy away where it's like in the comfort of home, there's just like a different sort of aspect. I don't know. I like better. So,
yeah. And there's a lot of talk of vibe when people are talking about records, but like vibe does matter, like, does it put you at ease or does it make you feel discomforted? Well, that's going to affect the performance. It's going to affect.
Yeah, I mean, the more comfortable you are, you're usually going to be able to perform or play better just because you're, some people might argue that they disagree with that. They're like, no, everything needs to be messed up and it's got to be, in chaos and you have to, be under the gun. And it's like, okay, sure, I suppose if you want, but I kind of find that if you can be in a comfortable environment, feels better. I think.
Yeah, that's different strokes for different folks, but
sure, yeah.
Like if you like to have Phil Spector waving a gun at you, sure, go right ahead. But
yeah, definitely.
Well, I think that Sunny Day sort of reconvening is something that is like a pleasant surprise, like a pleasantly unexpected, probably was the best way to put it. And it kind of seemed like it was doing it to do it, and like for not like didn't have like cash in feels or anything along those lines. Like it just seems like, hey, there's a whole. Knowing there's like a whole generation or two that never really got the chance to like see that band play, that's a nice opportunity, and that's
Yeah, no, Sunny Day has never had a cashing in experience. No.
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
really
I
a
mean,
daily
you know,
life. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, and that's never ever been the uh, inspiration behind me playing. But when you start to have kids, you start to go, well, I gotta, I should maybe need to get paid, gas money, maybe. I don't know, but I mean, yeah. So we know, we never. Yeah, man, that was bad luck because we signed to Time Bomb, and pretty much when we were at the end of making that record, Time Bomb got dropped by Arista. They were a subsidiary of, I believe, and they got dropped. And so then they were basically like, okay, well, your record is basically going to kind of just exist, be owned.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, we've never ever received any royalties for that to this day. So
brag, man.
Which is kind of crazy, but I mean, that's actually something that I or none of us have ever said out loud before. Well, to each other we have, but yeah. And then now the Rising Tide was recently sold to some company called, oh man, what is it called? Like Bicycle something. I can't remember. Like, damn, I didn't even know. And yeah, they sold it to that company, and we're like, dude, how do we regain our rights to that record?
Rather than being treated around like an NFT or something,
Yeah. I don't know. We've been trying to figure out how to go about that, because it's literally just the music business is just historically and currently it's just really dirty, man. I mean,
yeah.
For the most part, it's just like, well, we'll just fuck them, and then if they can do something about it, well, then maybe they'll be able to do something about it. But if they can't, so be it. That's kind of the game. And I've had an entertainment lawyer say those exact words to me. It's like, the game is screw you, and then if you can do something about it, maybe you will be not quite as screwed, but chances are you will not be able to afford to do anything about it. So that's the way it is. It's just good business.
I'm just reminded of that Hunter S. Thompson quote. The music business is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side.
Yeah. Yep. I think I just came across that quote for the first time recently. Actually, just stumbled upon it. Yeah. That's about right.
It hasn't changed at all. I mean, it's just the mechanisms for doing so maybe have, but yeah, it's God,
yeah.
That sucks, man. It just sucks that like someone wouldn't make that right. Just it's all this opaque, casual cruelty.
Yeah, I know. It's lame. It's lame. It's like like I said, it's that kind of stuff. It's like before, like I know Jeremy and I'd be like, whatever. It's like, who cares? It's not, you know what I mean? It's like, we were like, so now we're not in it for the money anyway. But when you start to have kids, you start to go, wait a minute,
right? Yeah, because it's about the kind of life you can provide for them, right? And this is that's a mechanism for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When there's hobbits involved, it's a whole different story. So, yeah.
Got to take care of the Shire.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, I was hoping that like the way things were changing, like with the power of the internet and social media and online streaming, there would be this sort of like, and I feel like there should be this way for artists to be able to take more control over like their own stuff, and I think maybe, and if there's anybody that successfully like done that and figured out a way to like adapt to that and utilize like technology to take control of their own rights to their music, please let me know, because I've been trying to figure it out and I haven't.
Well, I think like you there's an Assertion Bandcamp. Bandcamp's like the only like remotely artist friendly player in the game, whereas Spotify is just it's more the same with like different bosses taking it, right? Sharecropping. And if you look at like radio, it's less insulting, but if you look at it like lost sales, like, well, the world's changed, man. The genie's out of the bottle.
Well, Assertion's on Spotify and Apple Music now, so
but like the idea that you could sell direct to the fan and like just remove the middleman, that's what everyone's idea of what the music world is now, and it kind of is. But there's also this other thing where people are like, hey, we found a way we can make a lot of money with this. How cool.
Yeah, no, I feel like it hasn't been really successfully hijacked in a good way. You know what I mean? Like by the people that actually should have more control over it,
there's some inroads, but it's certainly a war that we'll go charitably say is not going great. But
I mean, with Spotify, like for like artist plays, I mean, like, so the artists don't even really get paid that much, really.
It's laughably. we could talk. Yeah, it's laughably small.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to talk trash. It's their business model.
Yeah.
And again, if you look at it like this is like radio, okay, then fine. But the thing is, it isn't like radio. They've sort of trained folks to now listen in this way. Now rent your music from us. Don't own your music.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then Apple Music now, it's like you just pay one, price, and then you have access to whatever music is there. And I have no idea how the hell they work that out as far as like
lots of backroom deals, I can assume, but
craziness.
But yeah, I mean, so that said, assertion.bandcamp.com, you can get there's the vinyl options are fantastic. You can buy the digital there. It actually goes to the artist, which is
well, it's everything goes to Spartan right now, and then it'll go to
and it'll be filtered. But meaning that you're like whatever, like a $10 for a digital copy of the record is going to go a lot more towards the artist than it will to stream it sometimes. You get shirts, all that kind of stuff.
I'm really excited for the new record though, man. I mean, I'm proud of the first record, but it's just that record was kind of like almost me sort of like
figuring it out,
like squirting the oil can on my rust or whatever, like it was me trying to basically kind of like reawaken my sort of relight the fire or whatever. So and then songwriting wise, everything that we learned before from making the first record was the starting point for the second record. So just the production is going to be like a whole leap forward. The songwriting is a whole leap forward. Everything, the playing is everything is just like elevated. So I'm really excited. Like I
said, hear it. It's awesome.
The songs that we're working on for the second Assertion record is the most profoundly sophisticated songwriting I've ever been a part of. I mean, and that's all Justin, man. Honestly, like Justin is very, very dude's a genius. He's prolific, unbelievably prolific. He has these files on his computer, and one says like 297, another one says like 306, another one says like 412, and those are all song ideas.
So he's not the only one.
So like they're all song ideas, and like he'll we'll start going through them, and I'll be like, I'm like, and he's like, oh, this was from like 2006. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. That's
just
awesome.
Crazy, Yeah, so it's cool. There's all these an endless supply of like ideas to basically take and build upon. But we've only done that a few times. The rest of the stuff has been written just, for the most part, with the exception of like, an additional riff. We basically get in the room, we rapid fire, and then bam, done.
And on you go.
It's cool.
I mean, I think Intermission is a very interesting record, and it's it sounds like a very like a band that has an identity, an idea of like where it's going. Like that's great. And the fact that like, you already got new stuff on deck is fantastic. I mean, I'm sure that's going to be amazing as well.
Yeah. I mean I mean, it's to the point where we pretty much only play like maybe one or two of songs from that record anymore live.
Wow.
Because
that's great.
Because I mean, we like the songs and stuff from that record, but ultimately it's like, this is like way more interesting, the new songs.
Yeah,
like,
you're moving forward. You're growing as a band, and that's going to be the new stuff's always going to be more exciting. There's nothing.
Yeah, and it's fun. But no, it's like I said, it's different this time around because before I would only practice with my band, but now it's like I'm playing all the time, and I started teaching, so that's been interesting because, I've had to basically really sort of like explore my instrument so I can bring things to the table, to teach. Because at first I thought I was going to be teaching kids that are starting out, but there's a lot of drummers that have been playing for 30 or 40 years coming to me, and I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Excuse me for just a moment.
Yeah.
So, and so, but that's been good. So I've been growing and learning and more willing to actually do that now than I ever was before. So that's pretty.
That's cool. Awesome. I love that. William, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for spending so much time with me. Thank you. Everything I hoped it would be. So the only other thing I've got is that I'm sorry that it got so heavy, man. I apologize. I'm not.
I didn't mean to, okay. So
I'm not sorry at all. No apologies. I think stuff people need to hear. It's again, on the light, man. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, but I interrupted you. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's a canned question. The only thing I ever ask at the end of the show. You can choose to interpret it however you like. But why do you do what you do?
Music, you mean? Why do I do what I do? Like as far as music?
Sure.
To document the human experience.
Well, I'm
glad
you
pass it on.
To pass the time, you said?
No, to pass it on. No,
okay.
And to pass the time.
That's much better. That's
because I'm bored. No. To document the human experience. That's that's just like all art does, So
that's awesome. Well,
yeah. Oh, can we say hi to Griffin? Hi, Griffin.
Hey, Griffin.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, and please come back sometime. This has been excellent.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, brother. Oh, there he goes. What a cool guy. How great was that, right? All right, let's listen to some Assertion. And thanks so much for tuning in, folks. Seven by Sandy Real Estate. Love that jam. That's a ripper.
Is this thing
That's a
on?
ripper. And before that, we had, of course, the new hotness. It's Assertion. The name of that song is The Lamb to the Slaughter Pulls a Knife. That's off of the record that came out this year, people, called Intermission. It's good. Check it out. It's on Bandcamp. Assertion.bandcamp.com, I believe. I should have checked that before I started that sentence, but here we are. So there you go, Mr. William Goldsmith. What an awesome time, right? It is assertion.bandcamp.com, by the way. The name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so much for listening to it. This show airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. All on Radio Nope. These days, streaming also Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, etc., etc., etc. If you like the show and want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal will help achieve that very achievable goal.
Signing off.
Thanks for everyone sharing the show around,
Ships at sea.
liking, subscribing, reviewing, all that good stuff. It's how people find the show, and it's much appreciated. And I thank you.
I've got 50,000 watts of power.
Lots of cool stuff coming up, as always. Stay tuned. Watch this space.
I want to ionize the air.
Kim Coletta is coming on. There's a couple things I can't quite talk about yet, and I really am trying and hoping I can soon. But anyway, yeah. Just stick with it. Leaving reviews and stuff, that's always nice. Thank you if you do that. Helps people find the show. Anyway,
Can you hear me now?
stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128, you're dark and lonely.
And take it easy.
I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? 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 See you in the radio. any caller at all. Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency,